Welcome back to Superb Sports. It's Hookshot Drew again, back with the second part of the unique positions of the gridiron. In our last video, we covered some positions that have either died out completely or are currently living on life support. This time, we will cover some positions that have been created in modern times and have been growing quickly in popularity. Football is an ever-changing sport, so it's without a doubt that the future will have some even newer positions that don't exist at this time of recording. Who knows, maybe running backs or gadget players will start throwing the ball with some crazy double forward pass innovations. Speaking of the gadget player, that's what's starting us off today. While not yet considered a true position by purists, the role of the Swiss Army knife skill player on offense has grown a lot over the last decade, especially coinciding with a shift away from the typical running game. Similar to the wingback we covered in the last video, a gadget type player has multiple roles and responsibilities, mostly set around confusing the defense with multiple formation assignments, lining up all over the field at either running back, quarterback, tight end, and even slot receiver. They are usually smaller, extremely quick and agile player, and so the idea is to get them in space where they can gash a defense for long gains. Good examples of gadget players would include Cordell Patterson, Taysom Hill, Tavon Austin, Tyreek Hill, before he learned how to run routes, and classic players like Antoine Randall, Kevin Falk, and Dante Hall. Man, he was so overpowered in Madden 06. As the passing game continues to dominate the league, I would expect the role of the gadget player to continue to grow and evolve. Most teams will have one on their team in the next couple of seasons, I would expect. As the saying often goes, this is a copycat league after all. Gadget players bring a new dynamic to an offense that isn't seen on every play, so it gives defenses even more to think about. Gadget players aren't just gimmicks, they're usually the smart, stereotypical football player type of guys that can seemingly fit in any position. They're invaluable to a team that knows how to utilize their skill set. So we must have mentioned it 1,000 times between our last video and this one so far that the league has become a passing league. So what better time than now to discuss the position most prevalent to reflect that change in history? The nickelback position was created out of need to deal with the spread of 3 wide receiver sets, to say nothing else of the sudden emergence of pass catching tight ends or even running backs who were sometimes even better receivers than wide receivers themselves.
The cool thing about what I did back in the 80s is what the millennials are trying to do today. Bill Walsh was interested in me as their first pick, and I was like, wow, I gotta learn how to catch the football. They drafted me as a fullback. In my first year, I caught 52 balls, and they saw that I turned out to be a pretty good receiver.
In a typical defensive set, I realize I must be careful with using the word typical, as NFL defenses are usually anything but. There are 4 members of the secondary, 2 corners and 2 safeties. The job of the 2 corners are easily defined, cover the 2 wide receivers. But the jobs of the safeties is infinitely more complex, with every team having different roles and responsibilities depending on what personnel they have, what they like to run, and even what their division rivals have on their offenses. The nickelback is essentially the 5th member of the secondary, usually trading out a linebacker in exchange for the extra help in stopping the pass. Although nickels are sometimes considered a 3rd corner, they are fast becoming more like an extra safety or linebacker than any typical corner. You see, the slot corner, as a nickel is also commonly referred to as, has to be the most versatile player on the defense, as they are now expected to cover the most disruptive player on offense, which is usually that slot receiver or a running back, as well as help clog up the run game and take on blockers on occasion. Players like Tyrann Mathieu have added considerable value in stock to the nickelback corner, as top nickelbacks can completely transform a defense with their impact in both the passing and run game. Nickelbacks are essentially starters now, as more than half of all defensive snaps in the last several seasons have featured that 5th defensive back. And in fact, there has been an even further rise in defensive backs recently, as more teams are needing even more help than the nickelback provides. The dime back, or 6th defensive back, is now starting to see more regular usage. As slots are used closer to the line of scrimmage with a free or a box safety, a dime package allows another DB to stay back and help cover deep zones with the free safety, at the cost of another linebacker. This of course puts more pressure on the defensive line to either beat the blocks and get home to the quarterback or clog up all gaps and not allow any running lanes. This also means the DBs have to be willing tacklers, as they don't have that second line of defense, with 2 extra linebackers now not being there. Because of the obvious weaknesses in covering up the run game, 6 DBs are usually only used in obvious passing situations. But obvious passing situations are becoming more prevalent after all. I'm liking this theme of defense we got going on, so let's stick with that. Although I don't think there is a name for it, a linebacker specializing in seeking and destroying NFL quarterbacks as a pass rusher is one of the highest paid men in football. We all have Lawrence Taylor to thank for that, as he is the one-man world beater, and he completely changed the complexion of the NFL when he was unleashed upon the professional ranks way back in 1981. So dominant was Lawrence Taylor that he won Defensive Player of the Year in that 81 season as a rookie. Still to date the only rookie ever to win Defensive Player of the Year, he added an MVP to that in 1986, joining Alan Page as the only defensive players ever to win NFL MVP. These tremendous accomplishments merely scratch the surface of LT's impact in the game. But to get an idea of his impact, you only need to look at the NFL rosters around the league and the NFL sack leaders year after year. Players like Derek Thomas, Jason Taylor, Sean Merriman, Khalil Mack, and James Harrison all became household names because of the impact of Lawrence Taylor. Linebackers like these have a huge advantage over the larger, slower defensive linemen. They're faster, they're more agile, and they're able to explode off the line of scrimmage faster than offensive linemen are able to react. Linebackers have evolved over the years, with some linebackers even able to run 4.4 40s. They're able to use their physical advantages to beat blocks quickly and chase down the quarterback. Pass rushers getting 10 sacks a season is considered a great year, which in the context of games is still quite a bit less than 1 sack a game. Which, there's a 16-game season, which now, with this upcoming season, it's going to be 17 games, which is kind of weird. This speaks to how valued they are, as it also speaks to how impactful they can be without it always appearing on the stat sheet. Not all pass rushers get home, but they can force the quarterback to throw the ball before he wants to, which can throw the entire play off by forcing the quarterback to throw a bad pass, either inaccurately or bad timing or both. You see, pressure itself is one of the strongest factors weighing in against the offense, so players that cause even more pressure are walking money bags. Just as in the last video, all of these positions are designed to fool and misdirect the opposing team. All of these positions work alongside each other, as you will likely still see a primary pass rusher in a nickel set, as it becomes even more important to apply pressure during a passing down. Defenses will disguise who is blitzing and who isn't, who is covering the inside receiver and who is playing spy defender. All kinds of things happen before the ball is snapped. Defenses have to stay on their toes in order to slow the modern offense down. These positions covered today show how the chess match has continued to evolve, but the mental head games are only a part of the game we love. If you like these videos on the unique positions of the gridiron, give this video a like. Leave us a comment on anything you felt I should have mentioned, as well as any topics you want to see covered in the future. Consider subscribing to our channel so you don't miss any knowledge coming your way. And check out these other videos that we have also made. I'm Hookshot Drew from Superb Sports, and I'll see you in the next video.